beautiful couple. She's precious. And here's Dr. Kevin, Zadai, and lovely, precious Kathy.
I feel like I'm supposed to share. I have more miracles. I'm just trusting you all. Just so you understand, I don't need your money at all. I mean, I've had people give me $1 million. Me and my wife. I worked for 30 years, and I became a millionaire just working in my company. Did you hear what I just said? So, I don't need your money, but if God tells you to do something, you got to do it. This is to help you, not me. Do you understand? I'm not in this for the money. You have to be clear about this. So I'm going to tell you some things. I keep it really simple because Jesus was straightforward. When I spent 45 minutes with him in heaven, there is no way I could misunderstand him. He's 3 feet in front of me, and he was quoting himself in the red in the Bible and explaining himself to me. So there's no way that I can misunderstand him. And the thing about it that I want to tell you tonight, I'm going to answer your questions, but I feel like I'm supposed to teach. I feel like I'm supposed to teach on spiritual confrontation. The Lord told me I have to do this because this is necessary to go to the next step in your lives. So I can't just leave here without at least talking to you about this subject. But this is what I want you to understand. Until you give up everything for something you believe in, you don't really understand what you believe in. And if it doesn't cost you something to follow Christ, my friends who have escaped Iran, I minister to Iranian churches in the United States and in Canada, but until you find out what people pay, with their lives, with their families executed when they become Christians, and they get out, and they get into Turkey, and they come over into Canada. And I was so touched by these people who became Christians, converted from Islam, and then they come over, and they're the most precious people. They've got substance when you sit with them. It just comes off of them, and you just bask in their presence. And some of them are only a month old in the Lord. And it's embarrassing. I can feel the power of God stronger on them than me. Because they left their parents who were killed. Some of them, their parents were still there hiding. And after a month, they would come up to me. With people, the way all of our problems here, can you pray for my finances? Can you pray? I need a car, I need a job. This beautiful young Iranian girl, she comes up and she says, could you pray for me because I'm going back into Iran to get my parents. Because I want them to come to heaven with me, and they're hiding right now because they didn't get out. And I go, how long have you been a Christian? She goes, a month. And she starts weeping. And I don't know about you, but it changes me when I run into these kind of things. And she converted to Christianity, and then her pastor, who's my friend, he put the Bible and the Quran out and read both of them side by side and became a Christian. We have other people who the father was hiding the Bibles from all the kids because they became Christians, and he wouldn't let them have their Bibles, and he's forcing them, essentially you're supposed to have your family killed if they convert. So he wasn't doing that, but he was just wicked. Well, he got sick and went into a coma, and when he came out, he was a Christian. And he spent, the whole time he was in the coma, he spent it with Jesus. He sat with Jesus, and he taught him the Bible. And he said, I'm a real Christian because you guys are just copies of Christians, but I'm a real Christian because Jesus taught me himself for the last 45 days or whatever, And I hear these stories, you know, and others where they were, I have a friend who escaped out. She was a terrorist, and she got converted. And, you know, Jesus appears to these people and tells them, you know, I'm the one you seek. And they convert. And so now she's seen Muslims, I mean, a lot of Muslims saved. So anyway, I'm telling you this because the true power of God is only revealed through death, because you can't have resurrection without death. And you know, you don't kill yourself, but what you do is you decide that He's worth it, and that you would count the cost. And Jesus said, unless you die, unless you lose your life, you can't gain it. And, you know, so on. He said, and He told them that they didn't need to carry their cross. Now, He told His disciples that before they even knew He was going to die on the cross. So He actually told them that He was going to die on a cross. He says, if you're going to have to follow me, and you're going to have to carry your own cross, and etc. Then He said, He told them, He said, I'm going to die, and on the third day I'm going to rise from the dead. He clearly tells them that, but no one was waiting for Him at the grave on the third day. Are you following me? Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that they had 3.5 years with Jesus, and Jesus was rolling His eyes at them all the time, because they would come to Him and say it didn't work, you know. Okay, so do you understand that why I'm doing this is not just to impress you or for the money, or, you know, because I don't need the money. You know, I'm praying all the time. I mean, I want to get her a new keyboard. I'm praying all. Actually, you did get it. Did you get a new keyboard yet? No. See, I've been praying since last year when I saw her, and I'm thinking about what I can do for people. I'm not thinking about what you can do for me. But you have to understand something, that I want you to get this. I want you to get this tonight, is that Christianity is more about Him than it is about you. And as soon as you get that, He makes it about you, and He covers you. But here's the thing, people, you know, people could argue with you about some of the things that I've already resolved. And I have all kinds of doctors that, you know, I'm a THD, but PhDs, they will say, you know, what are you doing teaching people Old Testament things? Like Matthew 12:36, that's Old Testament. And I don't even answer those emails, because it's in red. It's New Testament. But they said that's an Old Testament theology, that you'll be held accountable for every idle word that comes out of your mouth. But they never see Mark 11:23 or 24 work.
Right.
You know why, right? Because your words have to be effective all the time. James says that your life is steered like a ship by one small member of your body, your tongue. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So Jesus Christ, He revealed the way things work. He says, so when you pray, you have to believe that you receive before you get it. And He said, when you look at your mountain that's in your way, He said, you got to believe in your heart and say with your mouth. That's not some faith preacher talking. That's Jesus Christ. Okay, so do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so there's all these arguments. The Spirit of the Lord has spoken to me just to share some things with you. So I'm going down the list right now. And what you don't know is that I study, my wife can tell you, I study 15 hours a day. And I you know, every CD that I make back here, we fast for a week. And I go up in my office and I prophesy and I pray and I teach on those CDs as though it's my last CD. You know, I give my whole, this isn't for me, this is for you. So anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about is tithing. And the reason I want to talk to you about it is because it's interesting how people will argue with me about things. And, you know, I'm past certain things. Like, I'm past certain things because they don't really discern the benefits that are at the table of the Lord. So, you know, Jesus, when He's in your presence, He drives out sickness. It doesn't just leave. He drives it out because He hates it. So, you know, when you start hating sickness like you hate sin. Like when you hate wrongdoing and you hate when people do things towards you that are hateful and they mistreat you, when you start to hate the effects of sin as well, that's when you're getting into the realm of Jesus Christ. Okay, so there's certain things that God hates. I mean, he actually hates them, you know, and in my first book I list them because Jesus went over those things with me. Now, he went over certain things with me that are not being accepted by a lot of people. Most people are accepting, but there's a lot of things that are very hard. They're hard sayings, and Jesus said, if you can accept this, you should accept it. So what I'm trying to tell you is this system is set up for you to fail down here. And it's a debt system, and it's designed so that you never get out of debt. It's designed just to keep you alive, but from check to check. Because that's how they control you. Now, when I say they, Paul said, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers and principalities. He names them. These are actual levels. So I have to talk to you tonight about spiritual confrontation, but it's going to blow you away what Jesus looks at as spiritual confrontation. He looks at it, see, when you give to somebody, you should be giving to the Lord. Because that's what the angels write it down as. They write everything down that you do, and you get rewards for it. And that's not a bedtime story to make you feel good. You know, this isn't a goodbye story tonight. This is the last service I'm making you feel good. I'm telling you that angels, there are more angels in this room right now than there are people. And there's at least double. I mean, there's several behind me. And they're the only reason I can do what I can do. I mean, them and my wife. And of course the Holy Spirit. But here's what I wanted to tell you. There's spiritual warfare. We think spiritual warfare is these bizarre things sometimes. And so I have people, they told me that the Lord revealed to them that the reason that I had my job at the airline was because I was to do war in the heavenlies. Okay, the only thing about that is that there's nothing up there except the funky people that carry the spirits in my airplane. And then I know people that rent hot air balloons to go up so they can pick a fight with whatever it is that's up there. And they're just in the way of air traffic control is all they are. They're just in the way. They're in my way. Trying to get somewhere fast, and they're in the way. No. Well, listen to me. If you're walking with God, you won't have to go look for devils. I mean, everybody pretty much knows that by now because they can see your scars. I know which way I'm talking about. But here's what I want to tell you. I was dead and I came back. So every morning when I wake up, it's a gift. When I take my first breath and I reach over to touch my wife, it's a gift to me. So you have to understand my thing. I've left everything, but then I died, and I was given another chance to come back and do it right. So I was an unbelieving believer. So I was a believer that didn't believe like I should. And Jesus was really like the disciples. He was probably, he loved me, but he was rolling his eyes because I wasn't getting it. And I'd gone to the best schools to learn how to speak the mountains. And I was taught, you got to work the word. He kept saying it all the time, and it would grieve me inside. You got to work the word, you got to work the word, you got to say the word. And I'm thinking, I could teach a parrot to quote the whole Bible, but he has no idea what he's saying. And you know what I mean? There's people like the Pope that quotes the Bible every day, but he doesn't have the power that I have. Everybody thinks he does, but he doesn't, because last year he said that there are many ways to God. And I showed you in John 14 where it says that I am the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That was Jesus in red. So he just contradicted the Bible. So I voted him off the island.
Amen.
Because you know what? I love the Catholics. I go over to Italy. We have conferences. I told you, but I think I did. That was that here or Ottawa that I told that. I can't remember. But this conference in Italy, the Vatican sent down a priest to do the Mass before I spoke. And he was just sitting in the back, and he's just figuring me out. And he could speak a little bit of English, but I had a translator. And all these people, they had come, they're spirit-filled, they want to hear about, they want to hear about this, they're hungry, but, they're Catholics, so, okay. So anyway, he goes out and he does his Mass. And then he comes back into the room where I'm waiting, and he goes, okay, it's your turn. And he said, let me pray for you. I'm like, okay, Father, here we go. So he does his thing, and he is so precious, I mean, he was really cool. But he just put his hands and he went like this, and I'm waiting for him to touch me. And I have my eyes shut, and he doesn't say anything, and I don't feel him. So I open my eyes, and he's 10 feet back in a frightened look, looking up like this. He goes, do you know you have a 14-foot angel behind you? I go, he's always with me. He goes, you need to pray for me. I'm serious, and he started crying, and he's shaking. So he became our friend. Is this good? Is this okay if I teach you that? Okay, I'm trying to tell you something here, is that you have no idea what God wants to do through you if you will relinquish your rights to have your own way. Because see, what I'm doing now is far more than I could do on my own. And the Lord has reminded me that. He says, what are you trying to do? You can't even get to where you are now because I brought you there. So why are you going to try to maintain it or go further without me? Because you can't. Because you couldn't even gotten this far. So the acceleration starts to happen. And I remember when I was given F-16 training as a gift because a boss of mine found out that I'd given all that up and never got to fly the F-16. So her husband was the squadron commander. He's now a general, and so he put me through training, and then I got to fly against him in the aerial combat simulator. So I got all the ground training, and then after that they put me in there with him, against him, and it was amazing how I had just trained in smaller planes, and it was amazing when we took off, and then I met him in the air, and it's just amazing. The simulation is so real, and you have all the everything on it. It's a real cockpit of the airplane, but you feel everything, and it responds, and it's so real that they actually gave me credit in my logbook as flying the F-16 for 25 minutes. That's how real it is. It actually counts. So I remember the acceleration when he joined up with me, and I could look out my bubble canopy, and he's right beside me, and he rocks his wings. But he's in another F-16 that's hooked up to all this stuff. But I'm feeling everything. When I went pull on the stick, you could feel it like start the suit starts to the G suit and everything. So he said, okay, we're going to do a loop, and I want you he said, and I'm telling you this for a reason because the Lord's telling me some things. You guys are going on really quick in the spirit. I just want you to know that. You all have been obedient. The Lord has. You've been a sponge, but you have soaked up this. But now it's time for manifestation. It's time for you to walk in this. So he said, push the throttle forward, and it's on the side here. And then the stick is the F-16 is all electronic. So it's fly-by-wire, which means the stick doesn't even move, but maybe a quarter of an inch. It's just because the pilots complained, because they're used to having a stick here, and it moved. No, it doesn't move. It feels your pressure of your hand. So the F-16 is completely electric. It's electric jet. That's what they call it. So they made it move just a quarter of an inch just to satisfy the pilots. They were complaining, but it was really just feeling your grip of your hand, and it flies that way. So that's when you're back 30 degrees, like you're in a lounge chair, because then you don't black out as fast, because your blood flows back to your head when you pull. So I'm sitting back like this, and he said, okay, put it forward. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling that I'm getting pinned to my seat. And he said, okay, he said, now, I thought that was it. But that's what the Lord's telling you. This is the word of the Lord. You think this is it. And you're thinking, wow, this is great. no, this isn't even it yet. I'm telling you, you wait till tomorrow, you wait until next week. When you can't even believe it. I'm on to Germany and Switzerland and Russia, and you still are walking in this. And I'm not even here, because it wasn't me. See, the whole idea is to replicate and to get disciples. Jesus just wants disciples. He didn't want to come and just do a drive-by. You know what I mean? Okay. So he said, okay. He said, don't pull up yet. So I look out, we're still level. Now we're going about 550 right now. And I just put it up, and he goes, now, he said, pull it out. He said, there's 5 more clicks in afterburn now. 5 more stages of afterburn. So he said, put it the whole way down. So I clicked it down at 5, and bam, you could hear it pop. And the fuel flow went to a couple thousand pounds an hour, or to, it was 16,000 pounds a minute of fuel. So I only had 8 minutes of fuel in burner, and then I had to land or get it refueled. That's how much fuel I'm burning. And we went up into that loop. And it was amazing how I've never been in anything like that. And he's following me right with me. He said, keep it at a 4G turn. He said, keep 4Gs on the meter. So that's 4 times the 4 times of gravity. So my head, which is 12 pounds, was really 48 pounds as I'm doing this. It's a pit. So I did that. And I saw the performance of this thing, and I thought, you know what? There's people that experience this every day, and they get paid for it. But you wouldn't know that unless you entered into that realm. Okay, so it's like that. It's like that with the things of God. And tithing is one of those things that it's not a question to me, because there's many reasons, but I just want to focus on one thing. Me and my wife, when we met, we wanted to get a house. But we couldn't really afford one at first, so we just rented. And then we got an apartment. And we were both working really hard. But to tell you the truth, we were just making $3,000 a month. And we couldn't afford a house with that. So the Lord told us to tithe, give to our church what you want, tithe off of what you want a month. So we didn't tell anybody. So what I did was we said, well, if we had $6,000 a month, we could help other people and we could pay all our bills and we get a house. So this is just personal. You don't have to listen to this, but I'm telling you this for a reason. This is what happened with us. See, I wasn't bothered by the blank page between the Old Testament and New Testament. I wasn't bothered by that. I wasn't bothered by that break, because Jesus is the person that wrote both of them. And he fulfilled the Old Testament. Okay, so anyway, I didn't know that there were 5 stages of afterburner in that F-16. But once I realized that I realized that there's other things involved. And there's all kinds of different types of giving and stuff. But see, this is spiritual confrontation, but you don't understand it. You see, what the Lord showed me was that if you find a penny out there in the parking lot, and you take that into your possession, the devil considers that stealing from him, because you're a Christian. He doesn't want you to have anything. So you have to understand that. He does not want you to have a thing. And when you get a check from your job, it's considered stealing from his system, because you're a Christian and you're set apart. So what God is, you're supporting the kingdom just by who you are. So let's forget about the money part of it. Let's just realize that it's about ownership, it's about domain. Okay, start thinking ownership, being set apart, that God owns you, he's set apart, and that everything you do is set apart. So your family, according to Paul, it says, even if you have an unsaved husband, he is set apart because of you. Through the marriage vow. So your prayers affect the family. And just like Paul said to the jailer, he said, you and your household shall be saved. You see, so like he gets saved, but then the family gets saved. So I've seen this with Islam. One person gets saved and they all get saved. It's just like a domino effect. So you understand what I'm trying to say. It's with that with every realm, your relationships, everything is a domino effect because the angels are there to start knocking people over. Once they lean on you, they lean you into another person, and you knock them over, and you affect them, and they get overcome. And then before you know it, a whole town is affected. Okay, it's just because of one person. God moves on one person, sets them apart. But see, everything you have is holy. You got to start looking at it that way. Your car doesn't have to mess up. It doesn't have to act up. We have a car that we dedicated to the Lord. We bought it brand new in 2000. It has almost 400,000 miles on it. We've hardly put any money into it. They can't understand why the brakes don't wear out in it. We've only replaced them twice in 400,000 miles. We've only replaced the tires twice in 400,000 miles. And the air conditioner only once. And we live in Phoenix where it runs all the time. Do I need to say anything else? My mechanic took care of it from day one. And he's never seen anything like it. He says, you don't spend any money on this. He's Jewish. I said, well, you ought to like consider the fact that I'm a Christian and that Jesus Christ is part of the covenant with that car. Okay, so enough said. So it affects everything. So you have to understand that we started tithing $600 a month to our church. We did that for 3 years. You know what happened? Nothing. Nothing. But see, because we heard from God, and we didn't want to stay where we were, this is what happened. During that time, during that 3 years, we were out of our contract at work. So we were without a contract. And it got to the 4th year, and all of my work group was going to put the airline at a stop within a day. So we got the notification. And I don't even agree with this, but I'm going on strike. And I like my job. But that night they met, Herb and Colleen Barrett and Herb Kelleher met with the union. And she said, I love these people, these flight attendants, so whatever they want, they're getting. Because this airline's our baby. And they spend the most time with the passenger. It's the flight attendant. So whatever they want, they get. So are you ready for this? I got 110% raise. Did you hear me? And did you hear me?
Amen.
So when I retired last year, I was making $63 an hour, which is really too much, but I didn't tell them that. Okay, but I'm just telling you, I'm sharing a lot of personal things because I'm not afraid of what you think, because I'd rather help you, because I'm just like you. And when the rubber meets the road, God's got to manifest in life in every area. That's the way He wants to. He wants to get into every part of you. So I was making over $6,000 a month now, plus what my wife was making. So we were making sometimes $9,000. So we just kept tithing. This is what happened to me. As you know, is it my second book where I met that I fed that angel by mistake when I was feeding the poor? Or was it my first book? First book? Okay, the first book. So what I did at night was I would because when this situation was where we didn't have the raise and everything, what I thought I'd do was I would take some of the money they gave me for my meals and I would buy hamburgers and go out and feed the homeless at night on my overnight. So every night I was in a different city and I would just go out and witness. But I'd find the people that were sleeping in the streets and I would feed them and I would tell them about the Lord, and then I would encourage them that we need you back into society because God has put gifts inside of you. So I would talk to them like a real person, and I wouldn't shove the Bible down their throat. I would tell them that you're needed and you're loved, and that we need you back. You know, I don't know what happened to you, but Jesus will take care of it for you. Whatever hurt you, that you have opted out of society, you know, for whatever reason. And everybody has a really good story. It's really genuine. You know, it's legitimate. I mean, anyway, so I accidentally took care of an angel. It was a street lady, but it was really an angel. And so when she revealed her position, it ended up being an angel. The angel was sent, knew who I was, gave me back what I gave them, and then prophesied to me. He said, I've come from the presence of the Lord to tell you. And she starts giving the word of the Lord to me like an Old Testament angel would to, to the people. And then she hands me back the money and what I gave her, which street people don't do. They want your whole wallet. They don't want it back. And it was a week before Christmas. And I had the Lord told me to give my last 20, which I had in a special compartment because we were so tight with money that I was saving that 20 to buy my wife something for Christmas. And the Lord told me to give it to this street lady. So I did, and it ended up being an angel. So now kind of know a little bit more about us. But this is what happened. She told me about the market crash that was coming in 2001. And then her and the cart disappeared in front of a whole bunch of people in broad daylight. The cart and completely gone. Right before our eyes. Okay? So I got all my money out. So now see, I'm trying to show you what's starting to happen now. See, now I'm participating in God's finances, in God's kingdom, and that the devil can't touch it because I've given part of it. It makes the whole holy. So I give 10%, but it sets apart everything. So it's spiritual warfare. So I'm not renting balloons and going up and swinging my lightsaber at invisible demons in the air. Or my job, the demons are up in the air because the people brought them up to me. And I have to work with that. Do you understand what I'm saying? The demons hang around people. Now the principalities, if they're bothering you, then you're like what's happening with the ministry level, where you're going from country to country and they're waiting for you. And I'm like, so when I went to Germany, I was there for almost a month. Well, actually 2.5 weeks. Not one devil approached me. Not one devil spoke the whole time I was there. I never felt one devil. I went to Italy, didn't feel one devil. Switzerland, no devils. South Africa, not one devil. And this is 31,000 people in that church. They had the security guards for the church. They had these big machine guns with these clips. They were making the Swiss cheese with just one of them. There was like 2 or 3 of them taped together or something. I don't know. It was just wild. And they were like sitting there with all these bullets, and we had to have armed people all the time. But I didn't feel one devil. Are you hearing me? Yeah. Okay, well, that's impossible in your mind, especially after like what I put up at my job just one day. I encountered more devils at my job in one day in America than I did collectively all last year, and I preached 300 times. Are you listening to me? Okay, so warfare is different than what you think. And I just wanted to teach on that tonight, and then I'll get to your questions too. But it has to do with tithing. I wanted to talk about this. Is that, so I took, like if you had somebody do what they did to me, you get your money's out of the market. If an angel came and told you to do that, disappeared, knew your name, do you understand what I'm saying? You'd go ahead to your computer and you would transfer everything into the money market fund, which isn't going to be touched by the markets, okay? So it's safe, it's just in the money fund. So when the markets crashed, the fund that I had it in was Harbor Capital Appreciation Fund, HAXAC, I think, HACAX. Okay, Harbor Capital. It went down 80% without me in it. And it brought me to tears. Because when the markets crashed in 2001 because of 9/11 and all that, it went down 80%. Now, this is not an apostle or a prophet. This is as Kevin speaking in tongues. It was a flight attendant. Okay? But God intervened in my life. And the people that managed the funds that I was in, they didn't know. They lost, all those funds lost 80%. Are you following me? But a flight attendant that prays in tongues was feeding hamburgers to homeless and just doing what I could do. And I gave my last 20 that was for my wife to that lady because the Lord told me to, and it started something. Are you listening to me? It started something in the spirit. That's warfare. Not wearing a hot air balloon. Is this okay? Okay, so at the 80% down mark, the Lord told me to go on my computer and slide everything back in to Harvard Capital. So it returned back to 0 loss. It took about a year. But I know I had 80% money there. So all my friends, they're like, they get my sheets and they'd see, what is that? I go, how did you get that much money there? You started with me. I go, well, I don't participate in the world system. And they go, what? I go, I felt like I should get out. I said, see right here where I got out? And I put it back in here. It's like, how did you know to do that? I go, I'm a Christian, and I'm led by the Spirit. Yeah. Okay, are you understand? And so that's see, I don't witness to people. I am a witness.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, my life's a witness. I don't go out witnessing. I'm a witness when I go out. Oh, you didn't get that? Okay. So, anyway, I feel like I'm by the fire here tonight. It's different, isn't it? Okay, so this is what happened. I was in Seattle, Washington in July of 2008, and my wife was sitting beside me on one side. We're waiting at the gate for our airplane. We're getting ready to board. And I looked up at CNBC, and it showed that the Dow was at an all-time high. And I thought, well, man, I just made another. So I was figuring it out. I've more than doubled. And all of a sudden, just like I feel now, like the angel, you all have angels, so don't get spooky with me here. I have angels, you have angels, but you know, one just, I felt him come, an angel come, stand right there. It was the same one I felt that appeared to me in Burbank, California in 2000, I think it was 2000 or 1999 when this all happened the first time. And I heard, it's gonna happen again, get out now. So you can ask my wife, she watched me, I opened my laptop, and we're getting ready to board, so they're calling for our boarding group. And I'm looking at the Dow, and I just go, and I just did the same thing again. I slid it out into, so you got July, you got August, September, October, bam. Okay, so it happened again. This time it went down big time. And so lost, the funds lost close to that again. So in February the next year, I put it back in. So now I have 4 times as much as everyone else because it recovered. Okay, do you understand this? And so when I retired last year, I told you how it happened this morning, like how that miracle happened. We had all those different people in my life that were telling me. So you can hear from God, you can hear from the Lord, but it has to do with participating in His system. This is what happened. I was told to quit, to retire, but I'm too young to retire, so I'm going to get taxed 49%. So I'm not going to take that penalty. So I prayed, and the Lord gave me a man's name. So I looked it up on Facebook, and I researched him. And the Lord said, this man is going to handle your money. Are you hearing me? This is crazy. I would not recommend this to anybody. So I started praying about it, and then I noticed, he friended me, and he made these posts because he had seen me on Sid Roth, and so he was buying books. He said, for the first 10 people that want Kevin's book, just message me. I'm going to send you his book. This guy is amazing. You know, I don't even know him, and he's like promoting my books. So what I did was I messaged him. I said, hey, I'll supply you with the books, so you don't have to pay full price for them. I'll give them to you. And what's going on with you? He said, Kevin. He said, I'm Kenneth Copeland's hunting buddy, and I handle finances, and so I just feel like God's using you for for this generation. And I just want to be on board. And I said, can I call you? And so I called him. I said, oh, this is what the Lord's telling me. He goes, well, that's what I do. He said, yeah. Hey, so we developed this relationship. And so I slid everything over. And he calls me. He goes, my God, you have 6 times in there what we see. So that he doesn't even know. 6 times. He goes, you have 6 times in there what you should have in there. I go, just transfer it. Do it quick. And so this is what happened. So they figured it out. When they figured it out, guess how much I'm getting for the rest of my life? Every month. 6,000. Okay? You getting it? Okay. So that's not a coincidence. So that's the first thing that the Lord asked me to share with you tonight. Is that it's rigged in your favor, but you have to get out of the system of the world, even though you're in the world. So what you have to do is you have to participate in the kingdom. And it's really not about money, it's about ownership. It's about being set apart, okay? All right, so it's fair enough, right? I'm telling you this because what you give above and beyond, like the hamburgers, Jesus told me, because when I cashed out, I took those sheets with that, it was all that money. It was almost $1 million. Yeah, as a flight attendant. So I printed it out, and I went to buy a ticket to go back to Burbank on my own expense because they were all full. So the flights were full, so I had to buy a seat because I wanted to go stand on that spot, and I wanted to stand there, and I wanted to be one of the lepers that returned back to thank Jesus. So I could not get on a plane. I could not buy a ticket. They were all full. So I had these sheets, and so the Lord said, well, just work there. Just contact a flight attendant who has the schedule that they're going to be there for the night. Take their trip from them if they want to get rid of it. So that's what I did. I worked. I worked for a 3-day trip just so that I could have a Burbank overnight because I couldn't get there because I'm going to go and pay and thank God for what he did. Okay, so I went there, went to the spot in the business area where the angel appeared to me, and I just stood there. And what's so wonderful about California is you can act weird and nobody even notices. So I stood there and I waved. I did a wave offering with it was with Fidelity, and I had all those funds, and I was waving them at the Lord, and people were just like on drugs, all around me. So they didn't care. They're all high, they legalized everything over there, So I'm going like this, and I started crying, and I felt that angel come and stand beside me. And I said, Lord, I just want to know why you did this for me. Why did you do this for me? And he said, Kevin, audibly, I called my wife right there at that spot, and it hit her. I heard the Lord say, he said, because I counted every hamburger you gave to a homeless person, and I was just paying you back. Did you hear what I just said? I was paying you back. So the thing about me coming back from heaven that I brought back with me is not only the presence of heaven, but the truth of heaven is that everything you do is rewarded. It's counted. And you get rewarded for the things that you do born out of love and faith in your heart. And that you get credit for it. And even if the person you give it to does something wrong with it, it still goes to your credit. But they get judged, but you don't. It's to your account. So you really can't go in your mind and try to reason it out. Okay, so getting into the spiritual confrontation part of it with what the Lord was telling me to share tonight before I answer your questions. The spiritual confrontation, you're not going to believe what it is. See, the spiritual confrontation is not you getting your sword, your invisible sword of the Spirit out and waving it at the devil. You see, real spiritual warfare is when you want to do something and the Lord tells you not to do it, and you feel pushed to do it anyway, and you walk away giving the devil the hand, not the finger, but the hand. You walk away and you say, no, I'm not listening to you. When he tells you that tithing doesn't work and it's Old Testament, and you say no, Malachi is still in the Bible. And there's nowhere in the Bible where it says, test me in this. And there is nowhere in the Bible. I asked my pastor, who, you know, the one that never told me I need to be born again. I asked him, I said, I thought you said in a sermon that that you can't test God, and he can't test you or whatever. And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, what's this thing right here? He says, if you tithe, it says, test me in this, and see if I won't open the floodgates of heaven. And rebuke the devourer for your sake. Well, that sounds like that's better than any insurance policy that I have. Okay, so are you getting my drift? So spiritual confrontation is when you don't understand the truth because it's been twisted. And see, that's what happened with Eve. God came down and walked with Adam and Eve every day. What is she doing talking to a serpent about God? Do you see what happened? That's what. Why are you even reasoning out? Well, God did say. Well, what did he say? And then she doesn't know. And then she's not sure. Well, where's her husband at the time? And why is she talking to a snake about theology? Okay, what happened there? Do you understand? What does that snake know? I'd rather talk to the head, the CEO of the company, if not talk to some, janitor. What's the serpent doing? Do you understand? Are you getting my drift? See, this is really spiritual confrontation. This is real spiritual warfare. Paul said, and I'm just telling you the truth, I really don't put up, I just want you to know that. I have a 10-carat amethyst from the other realm, and I don't even believe in that. It doesn't matter, I still got it. It's not from this realm. Okay, I can't explain it. I have gold dust that appeared on the carpets. I don't even believe it, but when I took it home, me and my wife had so many angels in our house that we fell over and we couldn't get up. There were so many angels out, and over the gold dust that we had. And I don't even believe in that stuff. Okay, do you understand? But it attracted heaven, but it wasn't from this realm. So I don't seek after the manifestation, and I don't put up with weirdness. Because the devil is really serious, and he's a terrorist. So if you saw the last Sid Roth that just came out a couple weeks ago, I actually rewrote what I was going to say because of this very night, how I felt I need to talk to you too. And I told Sid this. I said, Sid, I gotta say some things. I said, people need to know that when I came back from heaven, I discerned that the devil wanted to kill me. And I didn't know that. I didn't take it seriously until I was there, and I realized that this guy's a terrorist that doesn't even have a conscience. And that his whole goal is to take me out. And so he can't take me out unless I allow him to. And so I saw that any kind of covenant, like tithing, giving, any kind of covenant, like being under these fathers that I'm under, that have 40 years of ministry. The devil can you imagine that the devil's got to look at Jesse Duplantis' white teeth and his white hair first? I'm serious. When the devil comes at me, he's got to go through Jesse. And Sid Roth, I'm covered. Do you understand? I have people that are apostles, and they say, oh, Kevin, you can just call me Anthony. I go, no, I need an apostle, so I'm calling you apostle. My pastor, so, he calls me Kevin, you can call me Kathy. My pastor's Kathy Duplantis. And she's like the best pastor in the world. But I call her pastor because I need a pastor. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need covenant while I'm here because I need protected. And it's amazing how everybody's waiting for something bad to happen and it never does. And I've been on an airplane, like I told you, for 30 years, 4 to 6 flights a day. And I never crashed. And there's a reason for that. And it has to do with the covenant. I'm not getting on a plane that's going down. So he tells me about 9/11, 4 days, and I tell my wife about 9/11 happening 4 days before it happens. So I cancel my flight. Because I'm going to be in Islip, New York for the night. And I'm leaving from Phoenix, first flight out. And I told her what was going to happen. Okay, so if God can do that, then why would I get on an airplane that's going down? It has to do with relationship and covenant. I mean, do you understand that? I'm not being prideful. I have every confidence that my covenant with God is going to protect me in every way. So spiritual confrontation is when you discern that something's not right. And you don't have to talk to an animal about God. So you don't talk, the devil doesn't understand anything except being rough. He just needs to be whacked with the word of God. He just needs to be told, it's written. I mean, if that's what Jesus did, he's the Son of God, what you think you're any better? Okay, all right. So anyway, sound doctrine, what you believe is spiritual confrontation. Now, here's the thing, as a spirit-filled believer, you have discernment. And the devil knows that you can, see, I'm just telling you secrets that I hardly ever talk about, but I'm released to talk to you about this tonight. The devils know, if you, see, I can see the devils, and they know I can see them. They know that I know that they're there, and I know when they're not. Just like I know when there's angels and when there's not. That's when, like when people stand up on TV and they say they've been to heaven and they haven't. When they tell me what's up there and it's not there. And you see, Paul, he wasn't bashful. He's saying, who are these teachers that have come in, these super apostles? You know, he was in jail and they were just coming in and teaching wrong things. And he goes, you have many teachers, but you don't have many fathers. He said, I birthed you. He said, I'm jealous for you. And so spiritual confrontation is more than just your lightsaber, whacking devils. That is, I'm just being honest with you. I have to tell you this because when I was over there, the only thing that matters is what I'm going to read to you that Paul said. He said the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And everybody in the charismatic movement stops right there and they start getting their sabers out and they start renting hot air balloons. Or they have these warfare conferences. Some of my friends do this. And Jesus told me it's like throwing a snowball at the sun and thinking it's going to do anything. That's what he told me. Because, see, the bottom line is that the only thing the devils understand is brute force. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, so you're not going to come at them with flesh and blood, but they're mighty through God. So what is mighty through God? To the pulling down of strongholds and anything that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. Bringing into captivity every thought. That's spiritual warfare, according to Paul. Now, if he's wrong, then we're in a lot of trouble because he wrote most of the New Testament, besides Luke, who wrote the book of Acts. Okay, so spiritual warfare is this. The devils don't understand anything except when you give them the hand and you walk away. And you go, you have no power over me. What are you doing talking to me? And when you don't respond, the devils push, when they come at you, they push you into the glory. Yes. When they harass you, all you do is run to God. And so, I'm telling you, I'm prophesying right now, I don't know if you catch it, but this is shifting in the room right now. When the devil does something to you, you run to God, and the glory comes in. And then it takes him a while, because he's thick, his head. He realizes that it's counterproductive to touch you, because you always run to God. See, so spiritual warfare is you run to God. You don't talk, you don't talk to the devil for 3 hours in somebody. You tell him to leave, and when he mouths off to you, you go, I can't hear you, and you just keep walking. I said, you're leaving. Well, that's the last thing you leave him with. He has to listen to you. So spiritual warfare is you have to know that you know that you know, because they know if you know. And they can tell if you aren't sure. Just like when we had horses and we would ride different horses, and my wife was a trainer. We would have horses. The horse, when you get on a new horse, it can feel by the way that you are sitting on if you knew what you were doing. And if you didn't know what you were doing, it would go for a tree and knock you off. Or it would just do something wild, and you'd be like, because it knew that it can mess with you. But when you would be like firm with them, and say, you know, I'm the boss. Like I had one, like I wanted to go into the mountains and do these things in Arizona. There's so many cool things, but you know, to take your own horses and everything, just to trust. We would just rent horses, but then you're dealing with religious horses that just are used to doing the same thing all the time. And they know that he would purposely go for a branch, under a branch to knock me off. But, so I had and then at a certain point, he knew a shortcut. So he was like, leave the bunch, and he was like heading back home. And I was like, he was so mad. I was Twister, I think his name was. Or was it Phoenix? Both of them were. Okay, so you have to be in control. Because it's your domain, it's your authority that God has given you. And the demons don't understand anything else. So spiritual confrontation is you discerning that's not right. It is written. And you speak the truth about the matter. And so my body responds to the word of God, not my feelings. If I'm sick, I speak the truth. I'm you know, like that thermostat back here. That's not the same as a thermometer. When I don't go back there and put, I don't go back there and put 74 if it is 74 and expect anything to happen. If you want 70, you walk back here and you put 70. You're calling what is not as though it was. You're not lying. You placed a demand on the system that's in this, and it has to obey you. So I don't know why people get upset at Jesus when he said, when you pray, you should believe that you have it before. And in Romans it talks about calling things that are not as though they were. You're not lying. I want 70. I'm not going to set 74. It's 74 in here. So why are you calling things that are as though they are? You got to call things that are not as though they were. So I call 70 and I place a demand. I speak to that mountain. It must be removed because I believe in my heart that what I say with my mouth will be done. That's Jesus. That's not Kenneth Copeland. That thermometer says it's 74 in here, but the thermostat is you have to set it. So this is your thermostat. Your thermometer's down here. You get the spiritual temperature, but you know what? You might feel oppressed. But it's not you, it's the spiritual atmosphere you're in right now. You're in war. Everything you do seems to work contrary. You're in war. But see, your spirit knows the truth. So you set where you're going. And don't get frustrated if it's a rough road to get there. Because you got to set that, because it's not going to do it itself. Whatever is in there is what it's going to be in here. Okay, so that is spiritual confrontation. It's confronting circumstances with the truth. Do you get it? That's why we tithe off of what we wanted to make, is because we place a demand and set the bar because we have the authority in this realm. It's not about the money.